This episode of Distraction is sponsored by Landmark College. With bachelor's and associate programs, bridge semesters, and summer programs for students who learn differently. Learn more at lcdistraction.org. Landmark College. Learn your way. Succeed uniquely.
The best advice I can give to anybody living with ADHD and married is get used to apologizing.
Hello, this is Dr. Ned Hallowell, and welcome to my podcast, Distraction. Today, we are, as part of our ongoing series during ADHD month, we are focusing on couples. And we are lucky to have with us a couple who have a website called marriage365.org. Their names are Meygan and Casey Caston, and they're talking to us from their bedroom in Irvine, California. And they are doing wonderful work for couples, and obviously they have a special interest because Casey has ADHD himself, and so they know about how that can impact a relationship. But they know about relationships in general, and so I'm really interested to learn about their work and hear from them. So let me just say welcome to Distraction, Meygan and Casey, and please tell us your story.
Yeah, thanks, Ned. It's a huge honor for us to be joining you on Distraction Podcast. Big, huge fan of the work you've done.
Thank you.
And I almost think Meygan needs to share her story because she's been the one that's had to deal with raising an ADHD husband. I was diagnosed at an early age and went through every therapist, behavioral specialist, food allergist, and went to 9 different schools growing up because my ADHD was quite literally out of control.
Wow.
I wasn't a destructive ADHDer. I was more just full of energy and positive energy that just got me in trouble because I could never follow classroom rules of sitting down in a seat for longer than 5 minutes.
Right. Where did you grow up?
So I grew up in Orange County, California, and
we actually both did. We both were born and raised in Orange County, and then we met in college in Orange County, and we still live in Orange County. So, we like the beach. We like the sunny weather.
That's right.
So when you met, how old were you?
So I actually, I was 18. So I was a freshman in college, and Casey was on the freshman welcoming committee. And we laughed that he did a very good job welcoming me.
You bet.
And, I used to not believe in this, but I really think it was love at first sight. There was definitely an instant connection. In fact, I called my mom that night, and I said, I met the guy I'm going to marry.
Wow. Did you really?
And she thought I was crazy.
What was it? Just chemistry? Just sparkle?
Well, kind of what he was talking about, that positive energy, which is funny. I was very drawn to his enthusiasm. He's very spontaneous, very extremely passionate about life, and I was very attracted to that from the get-go. And I'm an extrovert. I'm a people person as well, but he took it to a whole nother level. So it was very attractive to me.
That's wonderful. And you, how old were you at the time, Casey?
I was 23. I was quite a disaster, actually, all through my school years up until high school. I was actually on Dexedrine, and when I graduated high school, I wanted to start coping with myself and living with ADHD and trying to figure this out. And my social life was quite literally a disaster. I had a hard time picking up on social cues, giving eye contact.
Oh, well, this is a funny story, actually. So before we actually dated, we were friends for a few months, and he never looked me in the eye. And I'm really big on eye contact. And so I just kind of stopped him one day. I think we had only known each other for maybe 3 weeks, but this is how I don't know. This is how bold I am with my communication. I said, hey, I kind of grabbed his arm. I said, is there a reason why you're not looking me like straight in the eye?
Mm-hmm.
And he was so embarrassed. And I said, I don't mean to make you feel bad. I've noticed that every time you talk to me, you're kind of looking everywhere. And I'm just wondering what's going on. And that's when he actually shared with me, oh, well, actually, I was diagnosed with ADHD, and it's really hard for me to focus on one thing. Like when you were talking to me, Meygan, I was noticing the birds in the background. I could hear the siren from the street. And then, so I grabbed his face gently, and I had him look me in the eyes. And I just sat there, and it was so uncomfortable for him, and I could tell. For about 5 minutes, we just looked in each other's eyes, and I said, this is what you need to do when you talk to me. If you want to be with me, you need to be able to look me in the eye, and even in moments of seriousness, sure, but also just when you need something from me. I need eye contact. So I taught you, babe, huh?
Yeah.
How to have eye contact.
Well, and I think that was super attractive to me because in past relationships, I tended to run over my romantic interests with my own interests. And I finally met my match, who was just as strong and wouldn't let me push her over. And
I still don't.
No, you don't let me get away with anything, do you?
Nope.
So sure enough, you did get married. How long after you met?
So we'd been together for about 2 years before we got married. You know, dating and engagement was really easy overall, very fun. And then once we said I do, I mean, it was like a flip of a switch, and marriage became not a fairy tale, for sure.
Yeah.
And it got really hard. And it was so bad that by year 3 of our marriage, we actually were looking to get a divorce.
What went wrong?
Everything.
How
much time do you have?
Well, there's a key feature that I think when we got married to escape some of the trauma of our past. And between Meygan and I, there are 12 marriages between both sets of our parents. So to give some context, my mom is literally, she's on her 6th marriage.
Wow.
And so when we got married, I think there was a bit of an escapism from, we're going to do something different.
And what was so that was traumatic. What was traumatic in your childhood, Meygan?
Well, I would say that there was several different things. In my upbringing, typically, you hear about, husbands abusing wives. And in my situation, my mom was actually the one that was very abusive to my dad. She struggled with anger and rage for many years. And my dad ended up having an affair. And then he married the mistress. So, there was its own sets of trauma, for sure. But I never felt very safe growing up. I never felt like I could be messy and be real because I just didn't know. My parents weren't steady people. That was really important for me. And then when I married someone who had ADHD, who had mass chaos growing up, so many different transitions and homes and stepdads and all these things, I wanted steady, and that was the last thing that I got. So
yeah, you jumped on a crazy train, huh?
Yeah, and I think we didn't know how to communicate. We didn't know how to forgive. We didn't know how to apologize. We knew we were supposed to do all these things, but we just didn't really know how to. No one taught us how to be married because, of course, with our parents and all the divorce, we just were taught, well, if you're not happy, just find a new person to make you happy.
But you had 2 years together without being married, and those were fine.
They were.
Yeah, they were great, actually.
They were great.
It was something about marriage. Once we said I do, it was...
oh, shoot, we're stuck.
Yeah. Well, and being married young, too, the expectations, all our friends were single and out having a good time at night, and I was kind of feeling trapped, and it was all so new, and I never had really kind of an example of what does healthy communication look like. By the time I was 12, my mom was divorcing her 3rd husband. They had kids together, and every conversation that I saw them have turned into combat instead of conflict. And so we had no example to follow. And
Yeah. I really think that, at the bottom of it all, we had some really high and unrealistic expectations of each other. So when those weren't met, we lashed out. We fought, we got angry, called each other names, and, it just got worse and worse. And as resentment and more anger built, we just drifted apart.
And how did you right the ship, so to speak?
so I was actually volunteering at our church as kind of a youth leader. And, I'd come home and here I was trying to proclaim this do-gooder, and I'd come home and I'd cuss Meygan out. It just was so ugly to a point where I think Meygan said I'd had enough of it. It was really, we were on the last strings, and she went out and she got help.
I did. I decided, you know what, I don't like the person that I am. I don't like my attitude, my heart. Everything about myself had changed. Where was the happy, fun, passionate Meygan? And so I went to a therapist. I started reading books and educating myself on just things that I was struggling with, like how to let go of anger, how to forgive. And, I really just started even meeting women who'd been married, 20, 30 years and saying, you're happily married. Tell me your secrets. How do I get what you have?
Now I'd like to talk about our newest sponsor. I'm really happy to welcome Landmark College. I'm really happy because I have an honorary degree from Landmark College, and even more happy because they are the best in the business at helping college-ready students acquire the skills they need to learn the executive skills that different learners, people with ADHD and dyslexia, need to acquire. They're the best in the business for different learners. They individualize the plans. They get these kids ready to, be all that they can be in whatever field they want to enter. They can take the person who is struggling and turn them into the student who can excel. Landmark College in Putney, Vermont, the best there is. To learn more, go to lcdistraction.org. That's lcdistraction.org. How long have you been married now?
We're going on almost 15 years.
Okay, so 3 years it was difficult, and then 12 years you've been,
Well, I think 3 years was when we walked to the edge of the cliff of divorce. Yeah. And there was probably another 5 years to 6 years of
healing,
learning.
Just the embracing the suck,
embracing the bad part.
And it's a military term when these guys run with all their gear.
And
they call it embracing the suck, where it's just like, this is going to hurt, but we're going to go through it. And it was kind of a rally cry for us, was just to say, hey, you know what? Team Caston is kind of our common phrase around our house, that we are stronger together than apart.
Right.
And it's some of the hard choices early on to heal, to work through the process of forgiveness.
Right.
For apologizing all those times that I lashed out at Meygan.
Right, right. How did you start Marriage 365?
Well, I wanted to say one thing before that.
Yeah.
In the last 10 years, or the first 10 years of our marriage, I have had 21 jobs.
Wow.
So, again, it was the instability of living with ADHD that was driving Meygan to a place where we needed to find some solutions for our relationship. And I think that every relationship has this unique and dynamic dance. And like Meygan was saying, self-awareness is so critical to that process of knowing your strengths and knowing your weaknesses.
And then knowing your spouse's strengths and weaknesses. So basically what happened with Marriage 365 and how we kind of started this was, part of Casey's 21 jobs was he started officiating weddings on the side. And he would meet with these couples, and he'd ask them, okay, so, after you get married, do you guys have any resources? I mean, what are you doing to stay? Because it's not just about the wedding, right? It can't be about the wedding day. What are you doing? And he was shocked with their responses. Well, we'll just wing it. Nothing's going to change. And that was kind of like, wow, you know what? We really went into marriage with that same mindset, and look what happened to us. And so Marriage 365 started as a Facebook page where we just kind of threw some ideas up on social media because our friends were starting to come to us for their marital problems. And we thought, well, we must have some wisdom on this area. Let's just throw it out there. And one follower became 10,000, became 100,000. And then it was like, well, let's just start an Instagram and let's just start a YouTube. And that's really kind of, honestly, with the mentality of let's just put some helpful information out on, on the web and see what sticks. And oh man, did it stick.
And as things go, it kind of went viral, and it's such a cool, awe-inspiring responsibility to steward such a large community of marriages from all over the world.
So is this now, is this now your full-time job?
Yeah, we do this together.
Yeah. Oh, it's your job too, Meygan.
It is, yes.
How many patients do you have?
How many patients? I love it.
So we're nearing 1,000 couples that have signed up.
Wonderful.
We are a little less than a year out from when we first launched this, and it's just been incredible, the feedback we've gotten from couples that have found connection inside their marriage. And I think a little bit of it is, Meygan and I are very transparent with our struggles through our relationship.
Yeah.
And I think people feel like they're not alone.
Sure.
That they're normal.
It's like the struggle is okay. And we live in a culture, as you are very aware, that, if you go to the counselor or you're going to a therapist, that must mean something's wrong with you. And there's a shame script that goes along with that. We're trying to beat that back.
Oh, it's so important to beat that back. Look how much it helped you, Meygan. I mean, it started everything off in a different direction. I tell people you should be no more stigmatized than going to the hairdresser. It's something you're doing for yourself that's healthy and really good for you, and you won't die without it, but life sure is better with it. And
it is.
And you know what? We've spent a lot of money on therapy. We've spent a lot of money and time, and I've never once regretted it.
No, yeah. Personally, I had many years of psychoanalysis, which is very expensive, but it really, really helped me an enormous amount. And well, you're helping lots of people, so this has become your calling, your vocation.
It has, yeah. We reach about 500,000 couples around the world online every month.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow. Other than the obvious answers, communication, openness, honesty, or maybe that's it, but are there other particular tips you'd give couples who are struggling now?
Yeah. So what's amazing is relationship principles are actually fairly simplistic.
Yeah.
But it's untried, not untrue. And so what we try to communicate with couples is, hey, listen, it really does come down to communication, because how we communicate is how we connect with one another. Now, there are tips and tricks that couples can employ to make communication good, but, very simple. When you make a mistake, own up to it. Apologize. Take responsibility. But unfortunately, in this distraction-driven culture, couples are finding it harder and harder to make time to connect.
Absolutely.
And then if there's something inside their relationship that's not going right, they really take it personally, and it sends them into hiding.
Yes. Avoidance becomes the coping style.
Yeah. Ned, I would say we get asked this question is, what is the number one killer of marriages today? We would say that what we've experienced and what we see the most is busyness.
Yes.
That people put themselves on autopilot.
Yes.
They're just going through the motions of the day, and so it's deceiving, right? Because you're doing life with your partner. You're paying the bills, and you're taking the kids to soccer practice. And, one's cooking and one's doing dishes, so it seems like you're integrated. But really, there's very little heart-to-heart connection.
Yeah.
And so either when the kids leave and you're empty nesters, or you have a free moment, you kind of go, oh man, I'm really lonely in my marriage.
Yeah.
And we're seeing this on the rise. It used to be money and affairs and things like that, but I really do believe it's the busyness, and it's just kind of that autopilot mentality in life. You
can have it anywhere. I was we were season ticket holders to the Patriots, and yesterday we were at the game, and at one point it was a hot day for some reason in New England, and so I was wearing shorts, and at one point she put her hand on my leg, the bare part of my leg, and gave it a squeeze and said, I just love you so much. And that, just little moments, in what is a busy scene watching a football game and whatnot, but you can connect even if you're doing something that would seem, engrossing, like watching a football game together, if you make that effort. And I think folks it's not just being busy so much as they're not making it a priority to connect. They're achieving goals and it just, lovemaking, people think what's the number one problem in that regard? I think it's the same thing. They don't make time for it, so everything you do requires some prioritizing and attention. So with these people who sign up for your course, you're essentially giving them a forum, a structure where they will give each other, their naked attention, so to speak.
Exactly. Yeah. And I love what you said, Ned. Your wife reaching over, touching your knee. It's not rocket science.
Right.
It's not complicated.
Exactly.
It's so simple.
Exactly.
It just takes a little bit of effort. And we would say 365 days a year.
Yeah. Hence
marriage 365. That's where the name came from.
I see. I think you're so right. You don't save it for Sunday morning or something. You do it all the time. You're connecting all the time.
And it's interesting because we have found, not only in our marriage, but in just working with other couples, that, if you're putting a little bit, and I'm talking a little bit, just like your wife did at the game, a little bit of effort in your marriage every day.
Yeah.
When the problems do arise, you actually don't have to put as much energy into them.
Yes.
Because they're not that big.
Exactly.
And so it's almost like most couples, it's reversed, right? They don't put effort or money or any time and attention into the relationship until there are problems.
Right.
And the problems seem like they're just boulders in the relationship.
Whereas if you make deposits every day into the account, you've got a pretty good bank to draw upon.
Yep, exactly.
I love your emphasis on connection. That's certainly my emphasis too. And the world, I think it's sort of our number one social problem. We're electronically super connected, but interpersonally increasingly disconnected. And
yes, what we're seeing, Ned, too, on that is we thought when we first started that divorce was kind of the big bad wolf that we wanted to take out. But there's a much larger force at work, and that is actually disconnection.
Exactly, another D word, absolutely.
Yeah, because it's the disconnected couples that are ripe for affairs.
Yep.
It's disconnected couples that, they are in isolation. They don't reach out for help.
Right.
And it can be overwhelming for them.
Right. Well, you guys are so good. I mean, this is wonderful. What a treat to have you. And before we wrap up, any special points other than learning how to say I'm sorry for marriages where there's ADD?
Yeah. So it's really good to think of marriages as in low-maintenance marriages and high-maintenance marriages to set the right expectations. And low-maintenance marriages are those couples that come from really secure attachments, good families.
They're both easygoing, naturally.
That is the complete opposite of us. Even though we talk about marriage, we geek out about marriage on a daily basis, we are in a high-maintenance marriage, which means that we just have to be more deliberate and more careful and watchful over what we do inside a relationship. And that, to me, is if you can set the right expectation, then you'll know, okay, well, we need to ensure that our communication is good. We need to check in. And we teach a habit called the weekly business meeting. And this is a habit that has saved our marriage in so many ways. It's just a weekly appointment that we set where we go over calendars, budgets. We go over, the ins and outs of the kids' schedules.
We schedule our date night. This is when we really look at our entire week ahead of us, and we get on the same page. And this really helps us set the right expectations of each other.
And for someone with ADHD, setting up the right expectations, as you know, is so important.
Exactly. Well, you're a wonderful couple, and you're doing a tremendous service to all the people who are lucky enough to be on your program. Thank you so much for joining me. You're a wonderful couple to talk with.
You're welcome. Thank you so much for having us, Ned. It was so great to talk to you.
Yeah.
Thanks a million, and thanks for all the good work you do. Well, my thanks to Casey and Meygan Caston for joining me today. It's very challenging to be married, period, whether you have ADHD or not. I think all of us who've been married, and I've been married 29 years, but there are unique challenges to living with someone who has ADHD. My wife, Sue, will be the first to tell you that our marriage faces challenges every day that I supply easily and fluently. She always tells me not to represent our marriage as perfect, and it isn't. But thanks to her, it's endured, and I like to say thrived, flourished, 29 years. And I think the key, really, to making marriages work is the desire to do so. My daughter said to me something. She's in a relationship that is working well, that she's not married, but I wouldn't be surprised if they ended up married. And she said, I said to her, you seem so happy together. And she said, Dad, we work at it. And the key is compromise. She has ADHD, her boyfriend does not, but she said, we work at it. And the key is compromise. We meet each other halfway. And I think, it's just in the nature of being together. And someone wants one thing, the other wants the other. Someone thinks one thing, the other thinks the other. And, it's pretty childish to insist on getting your way all the time. So you have to learn how to say, okay, I'll do it your way this time, and maybe you do it my way next time, and don't throw a tantrum. Or if you do throw a tantrum, apologize. Learn how to say, my bad. I lost it, and I shouldn't have. Simple lessons are what get us through. And, I often think my job as a psychiatrist, I'd be put out of business if people would simply learn simple lessons. I think that's why we need each other, to encourage each other and remind each other of what we actually already know. Well, once again, thank you, Casey and Meygan Caston, and thank all of you for listening to Distraction. Please rate and review Distraction on Apple Podcasts. Please take a moment and go there now while you're thinking about it. Rate the show and leave us a review. We truly appreciate your help in making the podcast a success. And a very special thank you to those listeners who've left us a review in recent weeks. Thank you so much. And remember to reach out with your questions, comments, and show ideas. We love getting your emails and voicemails. Our email address is connect@distractionpodcast.com, and our phone number is 844-55-CONNECT. That's 844-55-CONNECT. Distraction is produced by Collisions, the podcast division of CRN International. Collisions, podcasts for curious people. Our sound engineer is Scott Person, a genius indeed. Our music theme was created by Mark Berman. I've never met him, so I can't call him a genius. And our producer is the absolutely glorious Sarah Curtin.